This is the Burj Al Arab, the only 7-star hotel in the world. Sitting on its own private island, complete with a helipad, Rolls-Royce limo service, and some of the highest priced rooms possible, clearly making it the most luxurious hotel in the world. But those 7 stars are a lie. This is a story of how hotel stars are just a giant marketing scheme, and we dig into the problems with them and your alternative options, or lack thereof. I travel full-time. I was looking for some hotels for some future destinations. My ex-travel agent of a fiancé told me a long time ago not to trust this star rating system. In this video, we're looking at why the hotel star system is completely useless and what you can do instead. And see, every reason that I found why it's basically meaningless boils down to basically 2 reasons. Number 1 is because of the fact that it's about quantity over quality. Second of all, the rating systems vary by region. So what do we mean by quality over quantity? Well, basically it all boils down to the amenities that a hotel offers. Each star, you get a little bit more amenities, and it slowly builds. And we're gonna break down what each of these stars means and what kind of amenities you can expect from each. Except you're probably gonna hear me say quite a bit, coulds and mights and buts, and because nothing is very certain. We're gonna get to that later on in the video about why it's not very certain and why it's not super specific. But let's start with some of the 1-star options here. 1-star basically means you get a bed and you get a bathroom, and that's it. It's still a hotel. Motels and hostels typically have their own rating systems, but depending on the rating system, you might find some hostels, motels rated as 1-star because they don't offer anything else to you except for a bed and a bath. 2-star hotels, on the other hand, are a little bit different. You end up having that same bed and bathroom. You might end up with things like 24-hour front desk service. You might end up with a TV, maybe a small desk or table. You could have a few other amenities like a phone in the room. There is a possibility of paid-for Wi-Fi or other paid-for services, but that generally is all you'll get out of a 2-star hotel. The only difference really becomes to some of the small bells and whistles, nothing too crazy. Again, not always. We're getting to that at the end of the video. But that's what you can tend to expect. 3-star hotels tend to be much more about what most people would expect out of a hotel or a reasonably good hotel. Some of the things that you might get there would be like a fitness center, maybe a restaurant, maybe a pool. Your rooms are gonna still have your bed and bathroom. You're definitely gonna have a TV, phone, most likely free Wi-Fi. It kind of depends on the situation yet again. You're gonna have all those kinds of amenities. Definitely good service, things like that, but service does not typically even come into this whole factor. So those are the general amenities that you can expect to see out of a 3-star hotel. Now, 4 and 5 stars is where things get a little bit complicated. Basically, you're almost now guaranteed to get a pool, a decent restaurant, 24-hour service, fitness centers, possibly even things like spas or other amenities like that. You know, if you're staying at something more like a resort, you might also see like beach access and things like that. Those tend to be much more common amenities that you would see, as well as possible valet service depending on where you are. You might get bellhop service and a whole bunch of those service type amenities. And what most people would think of a 4 or 5-star hotel, they would think of those types of amenities. 5-star hotels really vary the most because you'll get everything already stated in a 4-star hotel, but then it becomes all about the small fine details. It's about how large the room is, how big the pool is, what kind of tiling they use, what kind of shampoos and conditioners they offer to you. All of those little tiny details are what you can start to expect out of a 5-star hotel. One of the best ways to kind of wrap this all up and explain 1 to 5-star hotels for what the average person would think about it would be a 1-star is something more like a hostel, a motel, something of that nature. 2 stars, you might get like kind of small independent hotels that don't offer you a lot of frills. And then by 3-star, you start getting into some of the basic chains like Motel 8s, things like that. By 4-star hotels, you get your Hiltons and your Marriotts and things like that. And then by 5-star, you tend to see things like Hyatt and the like. But even that is only a basic guide because essentially, depending on location, you could have something like a Hyatt in Manhattan, New York, and still not hit a 5-star rating because they simply can't add the pool amenity, or they can't add the valet service, or they can't add on-site parking. Like, all these different little things. So that's a great way to look at it, generally speaking, but again, it's location dependent. So we're going to move on to reason number 2, why this whole star system makes absolutely no sense and is pretty much useless. So ratings really do vary by region, like vastly vary by region. So it all boils down to who actually does the rating. In some countries, it's a private organization that will do it, like Forbes, for example, in the US. In other countries, they're appointed by a municipality, maybe by a regional government, maybe by the federal government. It really, really depends. And each of these entities all play a role into why the star rating system varies wildly. For example, we started this video with the Burj Al Arab, which is a 7-star hotel, except nowhere in the world do you actually ever get a 7-star rating. It is impossible. It only ever goes up to 5 stars, except the government of the UAE decided that they wanted to change the system to allow it to go up to 7 stars. So now they have the only 7-star hotel in the world, except if you asked any other government, if you asked any other private rating agency, they would say it's a 5-star hotel because it is a beautiful, amazing hotel, but it only goes up to 5 stars, so you can't get anything more out of it. So that's a major factor as to why this rating system is completely bogus. You have a lot of different influence. And then, not to mention, what's a 5-star in one country based on luxury and what somebody thinks is luxury might not be in another. For example, I'm from Canada, and a popular travel destination for Eastern Canadians is Cuba. Except Cuba's 5-star hotels are extremely different than ours because their standards of luxury are just a lot lower. It's a communist country. It doesn't have a lot of great infrastructure, so the best hotel in the whole country still only gets so high on a rating system in other countries. And then on top of all of this, you end up having corruption that does tend to happen. Now, can I find any true hard and fast numbers that say corruption plays a huge role? No, I can't. But yet at the same time, when you start to have private organizations involved, when you start to have money involved, there does tend to be a little bit of corruption from my experience, especially traveling around. There tends to be a little bit of grease in the wheels. Maybe somebody's like a 2.9 star and give them an extra couple bucks. Maybe I seen it a little wrong and it's now a 3-star hotel. So that varies quite a bit as well. The other thing that now happens quite a bit is that a lot of hotel websites do their own rating systems, such as hotels.com or Expedia. The thing is that Expedia's doesn't necessarily match hotels.com, even though they're owned by the exact same company, which is completely ironic, but yet their rating systems work off of different criteria. So now it's just adding another layer of complexity to this rating system that we have to look at and say, okay, this is a good hotel based on this star, except how do you actually know when Hotels is giving it one rating, Forbes is giving it another rating, and then on top of that, you also have a review system of people who have stayed there and said it's 1 to 5 stars, which that kind of star system has its own problems because a lot of people who really love it will rate it 5 stars and a lot of people who hated the hotel will rate it 1, but that doesn't really ever give you a fair average either. So you have all these layers of why the star system just does not make a lot of sense. The varying is the more important part. The one consistency about all of the star system is that it judges amenities. Things like cleanliness, things like service, friendliness of staff, all of these things don't get accounted for in most of the star rating systems. So you have your quantity over quality, and then you also have this variance that completely destroys the meaning of the star system. So what are you to do as a guest staying at a hotel? How do you know what is a good hotel for you? Well, to be honest, since you can't trust that star system, you can't really trust star reviews, you have to dig through each and every customer written review and try to find consistencies among those. If you see a whole bunch of them saying my room was disgusting, well, maybe you can trust that the room's disgusting. But to get a truly accurate picture, you have to basically go by those reviews, not the rating, and any other reviews you can find online. That's about the best you can do. To be honest, I'm a budget traveler. I look for well-priced hotels that look to be fairly modern and updated, because when you look for fairly modern and updated, usually they care about cleanliness and that as well, whereas if it's out of date, what else do they not really care about as much? That's usually how I work, and then I just start working through some of the recent reviews and see what people tend to say about it. The only other suggestion that I can make is to stay at a chain that you know and love. Now, not everybody can afford to stay at a chain hotel. They do tend to get a little bit pricier, but for me, I like Hilton hotels, I like Marriott hotels, and here in Japan they have APA hotels, I like those. They tend to be quite consistent. So, as I've covered throughout this video, the star rating system is completely useless and you should not trust it whatsoever. You don't know if they're looking at quantity over quality, you don't know what the criteria they're using, so why use it at all? But that's it for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider liking, subscribing, but until next time, we'll see ya.